All right, we're about to dive into one of the most incredible, detailed, and frankly epic stories in the entire Quran. We're talking about the life of the prophet Musa, or Moses. It's this sprawling saga of tyranny, faith, and a liberation so profound it echoes through history. So, just how central is Musa to the Quranic narrative? Well, get a load of this number, 136. That's how many times he's mentioned by name. To put that in perspective, no other prophet even comes close. He's not just a character. His story is woven into the very fabric of the scripture.
You know, one scholar put it perfectly. He said, the Quran was almost going to be the story of Musa. And when you hear that, it just clicks. This isn't some side plot. His journey is a core pillar, teaching us about faith, struggle, and what divine justice really looks like. So where does a story this massive even begin?
Well, it all starts in ancient Egypt. Picture this incredible civilization, powerful, advanced, full of amazing achievements. But it had a dark side. For the children of Israel, Egypt wasn't a land of wonder. It was a land of brutal, crushing oppression. They were enslaved, completely at the mercy of the ruler, the Pharaoh.
Now, Pharaoh was terrified by a dream, a prophecy that a child from the Israelites would one day destroy his kingdom. So he came up with this horrifyingly cruel plan. One year, all the baby boys would be allowed to live. That was the year of pardon. But the next year, they would all be killed, the year of slaughter. It was a twisted, systematic form of control. And guess which year Musa was born in? Yep, the year of slaughter.
So in a world where just being born was a death sentence, Musa's story starts with an act of almost unbelievable faith. His mother, who had to hide him from the moment he was born, receives this divine inspiration, an instruction that must have been absolutely heart-wrenching.
I mean, can you even imagine? You're told that to save your baby from the soldiers, you have to put him in a little chest and just let him go in the River Nile. It's the definition of surrender, of placing all your trust in God's promise that he would not only bring her son back, but make him a messenger.
Think about it. That river was full of dangers. The chest could sink, it could be found by soldiers, it could just drift away into oblivion. The odds against this tiny infant surviving were, well, they were impossible.
But in one of the greatest ironies of all time, the river doesn't carry him to danger. It carries him right to the palace of the man who wants him dead. And he's found not by a guard, but by Pharaoh's own wife, Asya. She falls in love with him instantly and convinces Pharaoh to adopt him. Just like that, the house of the enemy becomes the hero's safe haven.
Okay, so fast forward. Musa grows up as a prince of Egypt, living in luxury, but his heart is always with his oppressed people. One day, he defends an Israelite, accidentally kills an Egyptian taskmaster, and is forced to flee for his life. He ends up in a place called Midian, becomes a shepherd, gets married, he builds a whole new, quiet life. But that, of course, is not where his story ends.
Years later, while guiding his flock near Mount Sinai, he sees something impossible, a bush that's on fire but isn't burning up. As he gets closer, a voice calls out to him. This is the moment. Everything changes. God speaks to him directly and gives him a mission that sounds absolutely insane. Go back to Egypt, stand up to that tyrant you fled from, and free your people.
Now, God doesn't send him in empty-handed. He gives him Mukjizat, or miracles. And these aren't just random displays of power. See, a true miracle in this context is a divine science specifically engineered to challenge what a society prides itself on most. And in Egypt, their big thing was sihir, magic and sorcery. They were the masters of illusion.
So he gets two incredible signs to start with. First, he's told to throw down his ordinary shepherd staff, and it transforms into a living, slithering serpent, a sign of God's raw power over reality itself. Then, he's told to put his hand inside his cloak. When he pulls it out, it's shining with this brilliant, otherworldly light, a symbol of the pure truth he now carries.
So, armed with these signs, and with his brother Harun by his side, Musa goes back and confronts Pharaoh. And Pharaoh? He just laughs it off. He thinks it's just cheap magic. So he says, fine, you want a show? I'll give you a show. He gathers every single one of the best magicians in the entire kingdom for a huge public showdown on a festival day, planning to humiliate Musa once and for all.
Okay, so let's break this down, because the difference here is everything. The magicians throw down their ropes and staffs, and through illusion, they make them look like they're writhing snakes. It's a trick. It's human skill deceiving the eye. But then Musa throws down his staff. It doesn't look like a serpent. It becomes a real serpent, a real transformation. And then it proceeds to swallow all of their illusions whole.
And here's the absolute best part. Who are the first people to realize this isn't a trick? The professional tricksters themselves, the magicians. They see it, and they know instantly that what they just witnessed was not sorcery. It was real, divine power. And right there, in front of everyone, they fall to the ground in prostration, declaring their faith in the God of Musa, even as Pharaoh screams that he'll have them tortured and killed for it.
You'd think that would settle it, right? I mean, your own experts just sided with the enemy, but Pharaoh's arrogance is off the charts. So God begins to send a series of signs, plagues, across Egypt. And these aren't just random punishments. Each one is a strategic blow against Pharaoh's power and the gods he claimed to represent.
Think about it. The Egyptians worshipped the Nile as a source of life, so God turns it to blood, showing that so-called God is powerless. They had gods for fertility and harvest, so he sends swarms of frogs and locusts that they can't control. With every single plague, Pharaoh would beg for relief, promise to free the people, and then, the moment things got better, he'd go right back on his word.
Finally, the order comes from God. It's time to go. Musa leads the Israelites out of Egypt in the middle of the night. But, true to form, Pharaoh has one last change of heart and charges after them with his entire army. The Israelites make it to the edge of the Red Sea, and they're trapped. There's a massive army bearing down on them from behind, and a huge, impassable sea in front of them. It is, for all intents and purposes, the end of the line.
In this moment of absolute terror, his people are crying out, "We're doomed, we're going to be caught, it's chaos." And that's when Musa receives this message from God. This profound reassurance right in the face of what looks like certain death.
And then, the ultimate miracle happens. God commands Musa to strike the sea with his staff, and the waters part, creating a dry path right through the middle of the sea. The Israelites rush across to safety, and as Pharaoh and his army charge into the same path, the walls of water come crashing back down, drowning the tyrant and his entire force in the very sea that had just delivered the people he oppressed.
So, they're free. A happy ending, right? Well, not quite, because escaping physical slavery was really just the beginning of their journey. In a lot of ways, the next part was even harder.
Their time in the wilderness was full of tests. They complained, they struggled with their faith, but they were also cared for in miraculous ways, with food like manna and salwa appearing for them. Most importantly, this is when Musa ascends Mount Sinai and receives the Torah, the divine law. This was the blueprint to transform them from a group of escaped slaves into a community built on justice and purpose.
And really, that's what this whole incredible story boils down to. It forces us to ask a really deep question. It's not just about being freed from some tyrant outside of you. Musa's journey, with all of its struggles and triumphs, makes us wonder, what does it really take to be free? Free from oppression, sure, but also free from the tyranny we carry inside ourselves, our own fear, our own doubt, our own failings. And that's a question for every single one of us.